MADDIE TRAVER. I'm a huddle leader at the FCA camps this year, and this is the testimony of how God's grace changed my life. So I grew up in the suburbs of Dallas, Texas, and to me, Christianity was synonymous with cool, and I was definitely not cool. I struggled a lot with trying to understand what Christianity was. I didn't grow up in the church, and so for me, it was just, that's how you were cool, that's how you were popular, and not being those things, I was really scared of it. But a few years later in middle school, I ended up at a week-long overnight Christian camp, and I vividly remember being in worship and knowing in that moment that there was nothing in the world to describe what I was feeling other than God's presence. And I remember them saying, if you feel God right now, and if you've never felt it before, if you want to commit your life to God, then stand up, and we'll pray over you, and you can accept the Lord into your heart. And I watched as people did it, and I watched as people loved on them, and congratulated them, and I sat there and I didn't stand up. And I think it was for a few reasons, but I was scared of being made fun of, I was scared of being a fraud, but more than anything, I think I was scared of not being worthy. And for me, as I learned about this God for the first time, and how perfect he was, and how the sacrifice that he had made, and I watched the people that were preaching to me and saying, I'm nowhere near that. There's no way, there's absolutely no way that a God that perfect could ever love me. And I left that camp knowing for a fact that God was real, but thinking that I had no place in his kingdom. And so as I went through my next few years, I knew that God didn't give up on me, and looking back, I'm really thankful. But I knew that God knew my heart and knew what I needed, and my freshman year of high school, I met probably the most influential person in my life. Her name was Erica. She was a senior my freshman year. And I remember watching her, and she was the definition of a light. Like, so kind, so gracious, took failure, in stride. Nothing got to her. She was the nicest, most genuine person I'd ever met. And I remember looking at her and knowing that she didn't have the hole I had, and that whatever I was feeling, the emptiness that I was trying to search to fill, whether it was with grades, whether it was with popularity, whether it was with statistics in my sport, media attention, whatever it was, she didn't have that hole, and she wasn't trying to fill it. And we played the same sport, we had the same success, we had the same amount of friends, so I didn't understand what it was that I was missing that she didn't have. And eventually I was open enough and comfortable enough around her to ask, and she opened up to me about faith. And I remember thinking back to that camp and being like, yeah, that makes sense. And she started taking me to church with her, and that was unbelievably kind. It was something that she didn't have to do. She went 15 minutes out of her way to go to my house to take me to her church that was 2 minutes from where she lived. And that second Sunday, I accepted the Lord into my heart, committed my life to Jesus Christ, and the lie of Satan telling me that I wasn't worthy and that my sin was too great or that I was too imperfect is still prevalent in my life. It's something that I still struggle with. I think it's something that a lot of us struggle with. And more than anything, I remember being in that camp and thinking, I'm not like them. I can't have what they have. I'm not good enough. And that's absolutely a lie from the enemy. He wants you to think that. He wants you to believe that. But it's not true. And the gospel tells us, and the gospel proves to us, that no sin is too great. That no matter where you are, God will meet you right where you're at. If in this moment you feel like you're not worth it, it's not true. You don't have to give in to that, and you can believe the story. It's not too crazy to believe. It's not too amazing to believe. The reason that it's hard for us to not be able to comprehend God's grace is because he's greater than us. He has more grace and more love than we can comprehend. And so buying into that, and if you can feel something that you can't explain, it's God. And I'm absolutely a very analytical and logical person, and I knew that there was no logical. There was nothing that I could say that could prove or that could give me an explanation other than that God was there. And so as I've continued my walk with Christ and being a student athlete, transitioning from playing in college to playing at the University of Virginia, I have learned through failing and succeeding, how to be a Christian athlete, how to glorify God. And the word that has stuck with me since I met Erica, since I committed my life, was light. It's something that I write on my wrist every single game. I'll have it on my wrist every single day at camp this week, and it reminds me that we all have an opportunity as leaders and as followers of Christ to be the avenue, to be the window to how someone else meets God. So I'm extremely thankful that I had a light, and it's my biggest goal in life to be a light for somebody else. My name is MADDIE TRAVER. That was the story of how God's grace changed my life. Thanks for listening. Let's go.